All right, y'all. So I wanted to give you some top-level Democrats' reactions to Joe Biden stepping down for his re-election campaign and sort of thrusting Kamala Harris into the spotlight and effectively saying she's going to be the one. Now, an interesting point is when Biden's first letter came out, basically saying, I'm not going to seek re-election, I'm going to step aside. In that letter, he didn't actually mention Kamala Harris as being his heir apparent. He didn't endorse her in that letter, in the I'm stepping down letter. But soon thereafter, like almost immediately, there was a tweet from Biden. And in the tweet, he basically said, yes, this is going to be my successor. Okay. So Kamala Harris issues a statement. This is the first thing we got. Quote, I am honored to have the president's endorsement, and my intention is to earn and win this nomination. She adds, over the past year, I've traveled across the country talking with Americans about the clear choice in this momentous election, and that is why I will continue to do what I will continue to do in the days and weeks ahead. I will do everything in my power to unite the Democratic Party and unite our nation to defeat Donald Trump and his extreme Project 2025 agenda. So, interesting thing there is she's saying, I want to earn and win the nomination. So there's no language about like, I am the clear successor, basically everybody step aside. So it's possible she says that, and she means that she wants to earn and win the nomination. It's also possible that the Democrats just want to put on basically like a show trial to have Kamala be the one. It's basically a performance where you go through the motions of, oh yeah, we are having an open convention, but oh, it's Kamala, and look, nobody else is challenging her, and oh, she gets all the delegates. Would you look at that? So I believe that at this moment, it's leaning more towards it's all a performance, that there's not actually going to be a contested convention. There's not going to be a messy process. It's basically like a fake process for a show to make it look like, oh, she earned it, right? That's where all the evidence is pointing at this moment that I'm talking to you now. Now, it's possible that changes, but that's where we're at right now. So an interesting point is Gavin Newsom came out and endorsed Kamala, but there's also articles floating around that Gavin Newsom's team is sending out memos that show that, hey, look, Gavin polls better than Kamala does against Trump, right? That's the only indication we have of any even hint of a challenge at the moment. Gretchen Whitmer, who was very possible to be a challenger, she waited a little bit, but ultimately she came out and endorsed Kamala. Josh Shapiro, again, could have potentially been a Kamala challenger. He waited a little bit, but then, he endorsed her. And J.B. Pritzker just did it about an hour ago. So everybody who was a potential option to challenge her, they're falling one by one by one. But it's interesting that she says, I want to earn and win the nomination. So now let's get to what I find honestly the most interesting reaction. So the reporting was that Obama and Pelosi really were the ones behind the scenes, sort of orchestrating that Joe Biden's got to go, ramping up the pressure campaign, getting all their ducks in a row, having every single day it was a drip, 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 not only of Democratic congresspeople saying Biden's got to go, but it got to the point where it was even Democratic senators. You have people like Sherrod Brown coming out and saying Biden's got to go. So Obama releases a statement after Biden drops out, and here's what he says. Now, again, take note, not just to what's mentioned, but what's not mentioned. So Obama says, Joe Biden has been one of America's most consequential presidents, as well as a dear friend and partner to me. Today, we've also been reminded again that he's a patriot of the highest order. 16 years ago, when I began my search for a vice president, I knew about Joe's remarkable career in public service. But what I came to admire even more was his character, his deep empathy and hard-earned resilience, his fundamental decency and belief that everyone counts. Since taking office, President Biden has displayed... All right, I got to stop doing the attempted Obama voice. Since taking office, President Biden has displayed that character again and again. He helped end the pandemic, create millions of jobs, lowered the cost of prescription drugs, passed the first major piece of gun safety legislation in 30 years, made the biggest investment to address climate change in history, and fought to ensure the rights of working people to organize for fair wages and benefits. Internationally, he restored America's standing in the world, revitalized NATO, and mobilized the world to stand up against Russian aggression in Ukraine. More than that, President Biden pointed us away from the 4 years of chaos, falsehood, and division that had characterized Donald Trump's administration. Through his policies and his example, Joe has reminded us of who we are at our best. By the way, interesting, no word about the genocide that he's currently arming and funding in Gaza. A country committed to old-fashioned values like trust and honesty, kindness and hard work. A country that believes in democracy, rule of law, and accountability. A country that insists that everyone, no matter who they are, has a voice and deserves a chance at a better life. This outstanding track record gave record gave President Biden every right to run for re-election and finish the job he started. Joe understands better than anyone the stakes in this election, how everything he has fought for throughout his life and everything the Democratic Party stands for will be at risk if we allow Donald Trump back in the White House and give Republicans control of Congress. I also know Joe has never backed down from a fight. For him to look at the political landscape and decide that he should pass the torch to a new nominee is surely one of the toughest in his life. But I know he wouldn't make this decision unless he believed it was right for America. It's a testament to Joe Biden's love of country and a historic example of a genuine public service, once again putting the interests of the American people ahead of his own, that future generations of leaders will do well to follow. We will be navigating uncharted waters in the days ahead, but I have extraordinary confidence that the leaders of our party will be able to create a process from which an outstanding nominee emerges. I believe that Joe Biden's vision of a generous, prosperous, and united America that provides opportunity for everyone will be on full display at the Democratic Convention in August, and I expect that every single one of us are prepared to carry out the message of hope and progress forward into November and beyond. For now, Michelle and I just want to express our love and gratitude to Joe and Jill for leading us so ably and courageously during these perilous times and for their commitment to the ideals of freedom and equality that this country is founded on. Now, look, my speculation is that if Joe Biden was still being obstinate, we would have gotten to a point where Pelosi was going to come out and basically say, I want Joe Biden to step down, and here's why, here's the polling data, he's way behind, he can't make a comeback, and maybe even the nuclear option is Obama coming out and saying it, right? So now it didn't get to that point, but here's his commentary. So basically it's like sucking off Joe Biden, saying he's phenomenal. But notice what wasn't mentioned. What Barack Obama did not say in his very, very long statement is, let's go with Kamala Harris. In fact, I don't even think he mentioned Kamala Harris. Now, why do you think that is? Look, my speculation is he knows she's the second weakest candidate against Trump. He knows Biden is the weakest. He knows Kamala is the second weakest. So I think in Obama's heart of hearts, he wants a process. He would also like to, pull some strings and back the candidate that he thinks is the best. And he would like that person to take on Trump. Now, he's also incredibly politically cautious, Obama is. So I think if the tsunami is big enough, I do think he will back down and effectively go with the flow and say, okay, I guess we're going with Kamala. I give my full endorsement to Kamala. And then he'll say some bullshit about how she's the best place in order to defeat Donald Trump. But my interpretation of this is he wants somebody not named Kamala Harris. You know who else wants somebody not named Kamala Harris? Pelosi. Because her statement, she didn't mention Kamala Harris either. Now, again, things are moving quickly. Basically, everybody and their mother are coming out and endorsing Kamala, so it's very possible that in a short amount of time, both Obama and Pelosi say, okay, white flag, I guess we're going with Kamala. But clearly in their heart of hearts, they don't want Kamala. And look, I think Obama understands she's the second weakest candidate, and I think he also understands you guys are just doing this because it's like she's the one who's supposed to get it, right? She's the VP, so she's next in line. Then there's the identity politics angle too of like, really, are you really going to snub a black woman? But I don't think Obama, in his heart of hearts, I don't think he wants those to be the priorities. Like, oh, they're next in line and she's a black woman, so nobody's allowed to criticize, nobody's allowed to want somebody else. I think he genuinely wants somebody else. But he might be in a position now with the tsunami of people coming out in favor of Harris where he doesn't even see a way to pull the strings and get it going in a different direction, right? Again, the only hint of any challenge that I've seen is Gavin Newsom's people, not Newsom himself, but his people floating these memos. Look, Newsom plays better against Trump than Kamala does. But Newsom himself came out and publicly endorsed Kamala, right? So, again, it's looking like the inevitable is coming. It's looking like the inevitable is coming. And I don't even think Obama and Pelosi would really be able to stem the tide of what we're witnessing now. But clearly in his heart of hearts, he doesn't want Kamala. And neither does Pelosi. I know Pelosi wants Newsom. An interesting piece of speculation is, who the hell do you think Obama's favorite is? Right? I genuinely don't know. I don't know of all the people who are, in the running for this slot, which one Obama prefers. I have no idea. Some of them he probably has personal relationships with, others he doesn't, but he's also good at recognizing political talent, somebody who's a great campaigner. So I don't know. But anyway, this is Obama's reaction. I gave you Kamala's reaction. Now let me give you some of this stuff. So this is the betting odds. Who will win the 2024 Democratic presidential nomination? Kamala Harris was at 75 cents. So she was number one by a mile. This has since gone up. But number two behind her was Gretchen Whitmer at 14 cents. Hillary was up there at 10 cents. Gavin Newsom 8, Michelle Obama 6, Josh Shapiro 5, Pete Buttigieg 3, Wes Moore 3, J.B. Pritzker 2, Andy Beshear 2, et cetera, et cetera. So, That's what the odds were. Again, I think they've changed and Kamala has gone up. Now, assuming Kamala is the one, these are the this is for the Democratic vice presidential candidate. This is who's in the running, and this one is actually the betting market, like who the betting market thinks her pick is going to be as VP, assuming she's the choice here to represent the Democratic Party. So they have Roy Cooper at number one with 30%. Roy Cooper with 30%. Then you have Josh Shapiro, governor of Pennsylvania, 25%. By the way, Roy Cooper is North Carolina governor, 30%. Josh Shapiro, 25%. Mark Kelly, Arizona senator, 14%. Andy Beshear, 14%. Pete Buttigieg at 5%. Look, I don't think she's going to go in the direction of Pete Buttigieg because Pete Buttigieg is gay, a woman of color, and a gay guy on the ticket. I think they're thinking, the Democratic Party thinking is going to be, you have to go with the straightest, whitest male of all time as your running mate. That's what they're going to think. They're like, we can't have gay and a woman of color. That's going to be rejected. This is the way they're thinking, right? So of the others who are listed here, Mark Kelly, I'm not sure they'd go in that direction because basically you're giving up an Arizona Senate seat to a Republican. That seems like a bad idea. Josh Shapiro is a very popular governor in Pennsylvania, and that would help a lot with Pennsylvania. But the only problem with Josh Shapiro is that even though he's pretty good on economic issues, he's apparently an ultra-Zionist, which if Kamala and her team are smart, they realize, look, if you want to shore up the youth vote, you want to shore up Muslim Americans and Arab Americans in order to support you, you can't pick a turbo-Zionist who, by the way, compared students who were protesting the Gaza genocide, he compared them to the KKK. Yeah, how about you fuck off? Roy Cooper, maybe she picks him, but I think the problem with him is he's super cautious and he's a little bit of a question mark as to how conservative he is as a Democrat. I would not want her to pick somebody who fundamentally behind the scenes ends up being a Joe Manchin type. I think that'd be a disaster. So that leaves us with Andy Beshear, right? Now, I personally would like our big beefy boy J.B. Pritzker to be in the running, but it doesn't look like he is in the running. But Andy Beshear, governor of Kentucky, super popular and not a bitch. Like, actually makes good arguments for liberal and left-wing positions. The whitest, straightest male you've ever seen in your life. People have been floating around Twitter this picture of him and his family. It's like a family picture, and they're all wearing these white polo shirts and khaki pants, and they look like Children of the Corn, hardcore Republican types. But he's not. He's a Democrat. Very popular governor of a red state, and he might be him. He was on Morning Joe this morning. And that's a good indication that perhaps that's the direction they're going to go in. So anyway, there you have it. Kamala's reaction, Obama's reaction, a little bit about the betting markets, what we're likely to see moving forward. Ideally, look, in my heart of hearts, what would I like to see? I would like to see an open convention. I would like to see somebody not named Kamala Harris get it, because I think a genuine generic Democrat is probably best case scenario to be Trump. Generic Democrats are up 6 points on Trump. Whereas Kamala Harris, the poll show right now, she's roughly tied with Trump, which is better than Biden, but still not ideal. She's really not just a generic Democrat. She has a name for herself. But all the evidence at the moment is that it's going to be Kamala, and it looks like we're going to have sort of a fake process and a coronation of Kamala, which again is better than Biden, but, it's not ideal from my perspective. I'll say that. But having said that, it's almost, at this point, completely inevitable because all the people who would potentially be challengers to her are bending the knee very quickly. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.